Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 15 meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission. Great to have you all with us here this morning, and we will jump right into it with the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Christina Swallow. Here. Hillary Sheevy.
Here.
Ed Lawson. Here. Neil Majardin.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Here.
Bob Lucy.
Here.
Adam Spear. Here. For the record, Von Hartung is not in attendance, but we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to move into the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have a wonderful new employee, which I would love to lead us in the pledge. Chris Benham, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to move into item 2, general public comment. I believe I only have one item for general public comment. I have 2 others for agenda specific. So at this time, if we could have Mac Rossi come to the podium. Good morning, Mr. Rossi.
Uh-oh, a little small. Good morning, Chairperson and Commissioners. My name is Mac Rossi. I'm a resident of Reno. As King Henry once said to each one of his wives, this won't take long. This here is a diagram, and it's not going to show up well, but you do have copies of it. And all I wanted to show, didn't want to make it complicated, that we have an intersection on 7th and McCarran that has, oh, thank you, that shows 3 streets, 2 on McCarran and 1 on 7th Street, that all enter into a right-hand lane. No warning, no nothing. And that right-hand lane is also where a bus makes its stop to pick up and drop passengers off. The right-hand lane that they all come into, keeping in mind that McCarran is 50 miles an hour plus, and 7th Street is 35 miles plus, and you're almost coming to a dead stop. This right-hand lane is about the length of 3 buses. I've gone through this before with you some months ago, and I'm sorry to repeat it, but we seem to be getting nowhere on this. The bus will pick up and drop passengers off right in that right-hand lane. So if anybody's coming behind it, they have to stop and wait till the bus pulls out. This is a bus stop that also is not ADA approved. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. The right-hand lane is designated for just a right hand into the shopping center, and that is it. If anybody gets in that lane, they have to do what they can to get over to the one lane that's going down 7th Street. That's a solid white line they have to cross, including the bus also has to cross over the solid line, get back on the track. I have had NDOT, RTC, the city of Reno out there many times, and they seem to have their hands tied or they're not communicating well. And I've addressed this. This started over 4 years ago, and now RTC has just said they're going to go ahead and take a survey and see what's going on, realizing that there was a 2-year gap with the virus, but that's the way it goes. 25 years ago, this may have been a very good intersection with not much issues. The traffic has changed since then. We're requesting to have the bus stop move just down a short distance on the other side of the driveway going to the shopping center, so that'll keep a straight flow for the rest of the traffic coming in. There's enough room down there that they can wash their truck, their bus, tune it up, or whatever they want to do with it without interfering with any traffic. Again, we're asking for a change on this, and we're still asking for a change. The next item I wanted to bring up already. Time-wise?
Yes.
It is?
Yes, it is.
Next meeting. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, and I agree, Mr. Rossi, this is a problem area that we do need to look into. Okay, Madam Clerk, I don't believe we have any other further general public comment?
We had
Oh,
10 electronic comments that came in via our website and 1 voicemail. Those were emailed to you last evening.
okay. I think we have somebody else that may want to speak. This is under the general public comment, okay? If after you're finished speaking, if you wouldn't mind filling out a form?
Yes.
And we'll get that on file. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. This is Dora Martinez. I just have a quick concern. So I took the regular bus today to come to this meeting, and I have discussed this with Bill Thomas and Susie Trinidad. You guys have changed the station all around, Reno Station. I used to memorize every bus stop, where to catch the bus and stuff. And sometimes I ask the bus driver, and they're new, they don't know where Route 15 is or Route 5. I know that there's a big old sign on top of the pole. I can't see, I'm totally blind. And it's going to be hard for me to go and feel every pole to see what number of bus it is. And I talked about this with, is it Chim Gi or Chim Ji? Sorry if I'm butchering your last name, at the CMAC meeting. And he said that he's going to make sure that the bus will announce what route it is, because it used to do that, 2019. It used to say, Route 4 inbound or outbound, 3CL. So we hear it and we follow that sound to go and get on the bus. And I also want to let you all know, because I've been calling the RTC 348 ride. You guys have no accessible, usable app. Before you guys used to. But now you guys don't, and it's really troublesome for people who are visually impaired or to general public to keep up and see which bus is running or late or detour. So please, Madam Chair, please help us, because this month is Disability Pride Month, and we really want to be out there and be with the public, part of the society, go to our town, and we want to do it independently, and we can't keep asking random strangers, because we don't know what type of people they are. I cannot ask a random person because I don't even know if they're on drugs or something. So I would really encourage you all to please turn on those announcements on the bus. It is, reasonable accommodations, and also the bus stop announcements. We have to depend on the bus driver while they're trying to focus on driving the bus safe. So it would be really helpful, not just to the blind community, but to people who can't read or see the sign, to have the audible bus stop calls announced. So thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Great suggestions. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any further general public comment?
We do not.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're moving into item 3, the approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. May I get a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. At this time, we're moving into item 4, consent items. Do any commissioners have any items they wish to pull for discussion?
No, Madam Chair, move to approve the consent agenda as posted.
Thank you very much. May I get a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. At this time, we'll move into item 5.1, our discussion items and presentations. Let me make sure that I didn't miss. We do have some public comment on item 5.2, but we'll go to 5.1 first, update discussion and potential direction to staff regarding legislative measures and issues. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Michael Hillerby with Kemper Kroll. I know it's never much fun when you see me because that means the legislature is close at hand, but it is that time and we're planning and starting to think about that, and have come to you today for some guidance. Let me get this thing moving here. There we go. As the result of AB 343 from last session that involved RTC Washoe and RTC Southern Nevada in helping to prepare a methodology for walking audits, we received an ability to have one bill draft request available to us, the same way cities and counties do, state agencies and some other entities. And what we're here today is to seek some guidance from you about some potential issues and whether or not it's the board's desire to move forward and with a bill draft request. RTC Southern Nevada's, obviously we keep in contact with regularly. Talked with them a couple of weeks ago. They have a handful of issues that they're considering, but their board has also not made any decisions at this point. Chief among those are ongoing funding issues they have with their transit program. They're obviously watching the NDOT Advisory Working Group on highway funding, stabilization of highway funding that Director Swallow and her staff have been working on to see what happens. They also have some ongoing discussions down there about how their RTC interacts with their regional planning organization. And they have a few pieces of NRS that are somewhat different than ours. They have some specific requirements for some committee structures and things that are a little bit outdated, and they may seek to make some changes there. One of the issues that has arisen pretty clearly from, let me back up to other issues that may involve us. We know based on the NDOT Advisory Working Group and just the general sense of where we are, we'll have discussions about highway funding that will almost inevitably involve some examination or a conversation around fuel taxes and our fuel tax indexing that we've done here. We spend a lot of time educating legislators on the process we went through starting back in 2008, most recently, going to the voters, then to the legislature, then back to the county commission, a process you're familiar with. Inevitably, that brings that up as well. So that's one of the things we'll be watching and see the other general issues that end up involving one way or another RTCs around the state. An issue that has arisen at the staff level, and this is across multiple jurisdictions. In fact, just recently, the Advisory Committee on Traffic Safety presented their report to the governor, and school zone safety was one of those top issues. So after working with Director Thomas and the staff, we've got something to bring before you today and see whether this might be a priority that you would direct us to move forward with. Under current Nevada law, school zone speeding is treated the same as any other speeding ticket. There's no enhancement, except in the very unfortunate incident where a pedestrian or bicyclist is hit. Otherwise, they're treated the same as any other speeding ticket. There have been a variety of school zone improvement efforts. Our staff working with local governments, with NDOT, to identify school zones that need additional signage, beacons, maybe some re-engineering of the roadways. I think there's some level of confidence that some of the most dangerous school zones, there's been a significant amount of work done. What we're left with is how do you increase enforcement? And one of the ideas that has come up in that realm is automated traffic enforcement, otherwise known as traffic cameras. In this case, it would be for speed limits. The key piece of this is it would be enabling legislation only that would allow local governments to move forward if and when they were ready to do that. One of the key pieces of that is obviously talking with local governments. We have had some initial conversations at the staff level with Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. All are interested in the idea, but are very clear that they only want that to be enabling, and I'll talk about some of those issues in a moment, and all have raised some of the same issues. What are the costs? How do we implement that? What are some of the enforcement questions? Before I do that, I'll talk about previous efforts. In recent years, at least in 2007 and 2019, there have been bill draft requests looking at red light cameras. Both of those efforts have failed. There were, again, I'll get to some of the issues surrounding that. In particular, the most recent effort, I think it was, included a provision that the citation would actually be less than the normal citation and would give local government some opportunity to decide what that level was. The idea being this was more of an educational effort. You would receive that citation in the mail, receive the fine, wouldn't be the same as if you had been stopped by an officer. That raised a number of questions for legislators. Despite the intent of that to make it somewhat easier, it actually created some complications. Some of those issues, and I've got them up on the slide, and you probably have already thought about some of those yourselves. The number one that we hear a lot about is privacy. ACLU has historically opposed these bills. Coupled with that is the technology. Where is that data stored? Who has access to it? How can it be used later? Those are all protections that have to be built into any bill draft request. And for those of you that have experience with the Nevada legislature, there is always some distrust of local government, and that runs the other way as well. Their desire to allow local government a lot of flexibility in this implementation is pretty limited. So those are one of the things we have to deal with, is how do you craft a piece of legislation and what amendments do you need to make as it moves forward to be sure that there is an adequate level of control for the legislature over the decisions that you ultimately get to make. Coupled with that is the technology. Does it exist? Is it something that we feel comfortable with? Are there multiple vendors that can provide that? That rolls right into the issue of cost. How much does it cost to buy and install? How much is the ongoing maintenance? What does it cost to monitor this? Once the automated system were to kick out a report, who reviews that? How often are those reports kicked out? And then enforcement questions. And I'll take a little side detour here for just a moment. Based on legislation last session, effective January 1st of 2023, most traffic infractions will now be civil penalties, not criminal. And that includes the base speeding. That doesn't include reckless driving, speed racing, other kinds of things. And of course, if anyone is injured, there are still misdemeanor and other criminal citations. But general infractions will now be civil. That may change how local governments have to review that. It may not take a sworn officer. That's one of the concerns that has come up over time, is how much would that cost, and are there sworn officers available? That loops into part of our challenge. We don't have enough officers in any of the jurisdictions to station regularly at school zones, and that means you certainly don't have enough officers, sworn officers, sitting around waiting to review these kinds of reports. If they are civil, that does raise a question, and we'll need to do more research. Can that be done by civilian staff? And that may make things easier. And then one of the ongoing issues that the legislature, as this has come up on the area of enforcement, are these going to be implemented equitably? Are these going to be placed primarily in lower income neighborhoods? That has come up a number of times. Will it disproportionately affect minorities? If you do leave any leeway for local governments to decide on the fine, will this be simply viewed as a revenue generation device? So those are some of the comments that have come up from legislators in the past. I expect we would see the same things again on this issue. So there are some questions there that are ongoing. And of course, the general issue of public acceptance. We live in a time everybody reads the paper and sees the news, concerns about, as it's called, big tech or big data. Again, back to those same kinds of privacy questions. So those are, just outline some of those. In a moment, I'll be happy to answer questions, but what we're looking for is whether or not this or any other issue is a high enough priority for us to seek a bill draft request. That request is due, the initial request is due September 1st. So we're here before you now because you would have an opportunity for one more meeting should you have questions or follow up for us. We have not identified anything within our specific chapter, NRS 277A, dealing with RTCs, that is a priority now that we need to change. You'll remember in recent sessions, we have added some language about property disposal. We created the microtransit enabling language, and that project has been very successful. But we don't have anything that we have identified specifically. Where this would be somewhat different out of the normal course, we would be essentially looking for a bill draft request to support the efforts of the larger traffic safety community, not one that's direct to RTC. And in fact, you wouldn't be even enacting those as RTC board members. You would be making those decisions back wearing your other hats as commission and council members. But again, there is some desire from the traffic safety world. Again, this was one of the recommendations that was included in the advisory committee on traffic safety that was sent to the governor last month. Just to let you know, there was a mention that the RTC was looking at this because, of course, these conversations have gone on at the staff level. I want to make sure you knew that was there in print, but that was certainly not an indication that there had been any commitment made on behalf of you because you get to give us that direction. So I will stop there and be happy to answer questions. And again, what we're looking for is any guidance you might have about whether to move forward at all and what issue, this or some other issue that might be high enough on the importance for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the summary of that. I will turn it over to my board for questions and comments. And Madam Mayor, if you have questions or comments, just speak up and we'll get you in.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. At this time, Mayor Lawson.
Yeah, Mike, I think for me, I don't want any more unfunded mandates, and enforcement is a big part of that. Right now in the city of Sparks, 70% of our budget is public safety. It means we run the rest of the city on 30 cents. So you add where I'm required to put police officer in a certain place, that affects the entire city. So unfunded mandates from the state legislature and the trust thing, yeah, there's no trust there because they don't have to live it. Like the walk-in audit. I mean, I don't know what they think cities do every day, but I mean, that's literally what we do every day is audit what we have to fix, what needs to be done. So it's, for me, the unfunded mandates. You can't require me to do something that we can't pay for unless they give us money.
Thank you, Mayor. We've heard that loud and clear from all three of the jurisdictions, including from your own city manager's office. They want to make sure that there is no way this bill could wander from enabling to mandatory in any way. Obviously, anytime you open a door at the legislature, you don't know what's going to come through. So we very much have heard that and loud and clear from our local government partners.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lucy, anything?
No.
Nope. Madam Mayor, anything?
No, just Mike, I think that was, very thoughtful. And I'm just trying to think of some, I think obviously the safety issue, we're seeing pedestrian fatalities so high. So whatever direction you can kind of give us and help us in that sense, I don't know if it's more funding for education and outreach, and we know those things work. But I agree with Mayor Lawson on a lot of that. So, but no, I think your report was really good. I look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I should mention, and neglected during the presentation, we understand one Southern Nevada lawmaker is considering bringing a bill forward to increase the fines for speeding in school zones. I think that gets back, particularly there are people much smarter than I am in the traffic safety world would tell you the fines and penalties themselves don't really dissuade people very much. It's the enforcement and what you hear from, and that testimony has been consistent over the years when these bills have come up from the police, is when there are troubling intersections, difficult places, when they go out and do active enforcement, behavior gets a lot better. As soon as they leave, it gets worse again. But I did want to be sure to mention that there was at least one legislator considering perhaps an increase in the penalties for school zone speeding.
Thank you very much. And I know that we, as the RTC of Washoe County, have taken very seriously the issues of pedestrian safety, all safety of every user on the road. And I know, Christina, when you gave your presentation last month, I mean, we're really desperately looking for things that will help to start down the path of modifying behaviors for those individuals in their vehicles, and looking to other countries even to see what maybe they have put into place that have brought some of those bad behaviors into line. And the camera was one of them. And I don't know if the school zones is the right place. It sounds like it might be, but I, like Mayor Lawson, am concerned about there being some funding mandate to the jurisdictions that we simply can't pay for. I mean, part of me is, okay, you remove the fine, but is it a public shaming sort of effort? I mean, we're to the point where what do we do? I'll give a quick example. Back when my son was in junior high school, middle school, was in a school zone and watched so many infractions, but literally watched a woman on her phone up to her ear do a U-turn in the school zone while she was waving her child to run across the street outside of the crosswalk. And it was just that you never have enough officers there to witness and cite people for that kind of behavior. I think, if nothing else, we're open to any suggestions and ideas that we can deploy, including, as the mayor said, educational campaigns. I don't know what the answer is, but clearly something needs to change, because the behaviors are getting worse, not better. So open to everything. I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I, like Mayor Lawson and Mayor Sheevy, don't want some financial hook that we just aren't capable of funding to come with it. So. Any other members have any questions or comments? I hope that gave you about as gray as direction as you could have gotten.
We will decipher that and move forward accordingly. So thank you very much for your time.
Sorry about that, but that's about as much as we can give right now. Director Thomas, did you have something?
I was just going to say that based on the conversation and the challenges of working through the legislature, that we're going to interpret that as we're not going to get in front of it. We will do everything we can to support, but it wouldn't be something that we're going to champion. That's how I'm taking the conversation.
And I'll just mention, I did pass on through staff here to the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. My understanding is the Interim Growth and Infrastructure Committee of the legislature has their last meeting coming up, and are looking for bill draft ideas. And they've just turned their report in to both the governor and the legislature, so that might be another option for that group. Again, there are some strong supporters of this, but we wanted to make sure we gave you a real black and white picture of exactly where the issue is, that there has been some opposition. While cameras have been widely used other places because they're not allowed under Nevada state law, we don't have much experience. If you spend time in California and other places on toll roads and bridges in particular, widely used, and people don't seem to have concerns anymore, but there's always a learning curve there. But we appreciate the guidance.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
as
you.
always for your great presentation. Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to item 5.2, approval of the fiscal year 2023 through 27 transit optimization plan strategies. We do have a public comment on this item. So at this time, we'll call Donna Clance to come up to the podium. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Donna Clance. I am involved with senior issues all over our wonderful Washoe County. I lead the group that is the age-friendly Reno group that's been in existence for about 4 years. And one of our big issues is improving transportation for the seniors that don't drive anymore or have disabilities that mean that they need to use public transportation. We've been following the TOPS study. We encouraged everybody in the community to take it. We thank you guys, the board, for providing some of your staff members who've been attending our age-friendly meetings. Jim Gee, who's here. Thanks, Jim, for helping us keep up with what's going on and encouraging us to help the community participate in speaking about what they see going on and what they think could be done to improve the routes and the various ways to catch a bus and get where you need to go to. And also Susie Trinidad, who works with seniors all the time. So both of them have really helped us a lot. So I wanted I'm here to support the new report. It's about 200 pages. I know it's online. I don't know if anything of it is in print because it would probably cost more than running a bus to print the report, but very thorough. Jim Gee told us at our last Zoom meeting with the age-friendly group that approximately 1,700 community members participated at one point or another in the 2 surveys that were done, which is amazing. That's a lot of folks to put their voices out there. And then the list of proposed changes, for the most part, I think are terrific. There are a few things that I'm going to bring up in item 6.1, which is the public comment on those changes that I think some of our community members have told me about as seniors. So thank you again for the work that it took to get that out to everybody and for your ability to take a look at what the folks that are riding the buses and looking at how they work to improve that service so that more people can get where they need to get to every day to get to the grocery store or to the medical appointments or just to go have a good time at our town. It's really important. And I really appreciate what the community member from the blind community had to say about it. I think that is a terrific suggestion. I hope that can be implemented as soon as possible. So thank you very much for all that work and looking forward to discussion at 6.1. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna, as always. Such a great champion. All right, at this time, we'll have the TOPS presentation.
Good morning, everybody. For the record, my name is Jim Gee. I'm the Manager of Service Plan and Innovation for RTC. And I'm here today to discuss the TOPS project and give the board a high-level overview of the contents of that process. Just as a reminder for those on the board, the TOPS project for us is our 5-year transit plan. It's something that we do once every 5 years, but is a holistic look at everything that we do in our public transit side. And we use this document to feed recommendations into the annual budget process, our annual service changes that we do, our Title VI process, and other things related to public transit over the next 5 years. In terms of public involvement for the development of this plan, as Donna mentioned, thank you, we had a really extensive amount of public involvement, engaging everyone in the community that we could. 2 surveys were done, very lengthy surveys with 1,800 combined responses. To put that in context, for the previous plan 5 years ago, we had 750 combined responses. So more than double the amount of people who had feedback into the development of the plan. We also heard from the board and have designed this plan around the guiding principles that you developed: equitable and accessible ridership, reliable and safe service, stressing innovation in everything that we do, but at the same time also making sure that we look at our financial sustainability so that when we propose improvements to public transit, we're not harming ourselves financially at the same time. So with that, I will go through the contents of the plan itself. First, we did a review of our existing services. We used ridership data both pre-COVID and post-COVID, if there is such a thing already as post-COVID. But ultimately, what we have determined is, the world has changed. Commuting patterns have changed around the region. Ridership has certainly changed as a result of COVID. And so our transit system needs to adapt in order to make those changes to go along with the needs of the public. With that review of our services, we also looked at anonymous cell phone data to get travel patterns. We looked at origin destination data of our fixed route, of our flex rides, of our access services. And we also looked at what our peers around the country were doing in terms of best practices to see that what we were doing was meeting what the expectations in the industry were, but at the same time also recognize that Reno is really a unique community and that we want to make sure that what we do makes the most sense for Reno. With that, we also had a peer review, and the peer review was determined by a methodology determined by the Transportation Research Board. And ultimately, when you compare Reno with our peer transit systems and peer cities, we have a typical amount of public transit service on the street, but in return, we get a much higher than expected ridership. So folks in Washoe County are using public transit more than their peers in peer cities around the country, which is great news for us. We also had a financial review looking at our expected capital needs over the next 5 years for vehicle replacement, technology, looking at the impact of hydrogen, looking at the impact of fuel prices. We had a lot of assumptions built in there based upon our local funding and federal funding, but we want to make sure that what we propose in the plan does meet that financial sustainability requirement. Finally, with the TOPS program, looking sort of backwards, we also reviewed our performance standards and making sure that they still made sense with a post-COVID transit system. We've simplified and modified our standards and built them around 4 key areas: the availability of the service, the delivery of the service, the financial performance, and the community impact. These standards and TOPS will ultimately link to our Title VI standards, which will come before this board next year. We'll link to the KPIs that we report not only to you, but also to the public, but also is what we will use internally for determining our allocation of resources, to making sure that the service we put on the street and where we grow the service makes the most sense. The plan also looked at strategies for attracting new passengers. And some of the high-level recommendations were, first, to look at the end-to-end customer experience and not just focus on the time they spend on the bus, but also look at how they plan their trip, how the time they spend at the bus stop, the travel time to that bus stop, the amenities at that bus stop. And so it's an end-to-end solution for transportation. We also recommend leveraging the investments that we've already made in our BRT system and getting folks to that BRT and hopefully at the same time improving that service and all the routes feeding into it. Enhancing digital capabilities is a big push for us, not only on the app and the technology side, which I'll talk about on the next slide, but also look at just refreshing our website, making sure that information is easy to get for our customers. And then finally, increasing and improving education, especially in markets where there's a high potential for ridership. We've started that already with UNR, with the extension of the BRT line to the UNR campus. That UNR ridership this past month was up 32% over the previous year. That's because of a marketing campaign, our successful EdPass program, and educational efforts that we do on campus. We also have technology recommendations, which have been alluded to earlier in the meeting. We have a lot of technology on board the bus, and so we want to streamline that technology. But ultimately, our goal is to make it easier for our customers to take public transit, because younger folks, younger than me at least, they have an expectation of technology. and they have an expectation to be able to use an app to do everything. And so we want to make it on our side a easy way for them to plan their trip, pay for their trip, track their vehicle, do everything they need within a single app. So we're not bouncing them around from app to app. So we're not putting hurdles to basically dissuade them from taking public transit. That's a big push for us. That's a big effort, and that also reaches out to the hardware on the bus, some of which is old and legacy and would need to be swapped out. But that's something that will be a priority for us moving forward. And then finally, there is a significant portion of the plan that actually refers to the service itself. And those service proposals are based on the new reality post-COVID moving forward over the next 5 years, based on what the ridership we expect to see. Those proposals ultimately, though, include expansion of our flex ride services, include changes to a significant number of routes, and ultimately, we think we will do a great job of matching the type of service with the expected ridership. For example, we've had some public comments lately of folks concerned about Route 6 being converted to a flex ride. Losing service to Reno High School was a complaint that we heard. And frankly, that's not true. What we were proposing years down the road was to convert that service to a flex ride based on ridership. But annually and monthly, as we look at our ridership, if the ridership is there, it makes sense to have it retain a fixed route. It really depends that we want to match the service to the expected ridership. And what this means in terms of recommendations for the service piece, in terms of impacts, changes to 80% of our routes, introduction of 2 new flex rides, an increase of 37,000, almost 38,000 people who have access to public transportation in our community, and an increase of 40% of jobs and people to what we would call quality public transportation. So transportation, public transit would be more accessible to our community, and that will help grow our ridership. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about our TOPS project.
Thank you very much. Director Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up Jim's presentation with a public acknowledgement of the quality and effort of the public transportation operations staff. Jim, in particular, is the project manager, and Mark and the rest of the team did a great job in putting this plan together. And I just wanted to share a couple things as you start to consider this. First is that if you'll recall, we did our board strategy conversation after this project had already been started. And I was very impressed with the staff's ability to bend and turn and change this plan midstream based on what the board said. And I'm very comfortable that this plan reflects the thoughts and opinions of the 5 of you in terms of the consideration that you've been giving over the past few months about where we go moving forward, and your specific desire to rebuild it. And that's really what this is. We were hit by a catastrophic event, the pandemic, that caused a lot of changes in our society and our economy, and I think this plan is very responsive to that. The second thing, which is not glaringly obvious to most people, is that we're talking about really a public commodity. So the taxpayers pay for this. There's a limited amount of money. We try to serve as many people as possible, but we live in this world where people are now more and more used to getting personal service and personal response. So this plan, I believe, is reflective of what you've said, which is serve people, but in doing that, it won't necessarily mean that everybody gets the same kind of service. So this plan is designed to serve more people, as Jim has pointed out, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they will get exactly the service in the way they want it, which is virtually impossible to do when you have limited resources. So I just wanted to make those points and thank again the staff and let them know how proud I am of this product.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, I think this is a phenomenal improvement on what we've been working on for many years. And the one thing that stood out to me was the digital app improvements and really what we're trying to achieve. Mayor Sheevy and I were having this conversation yesterday, at the RSCBA meeting, and tourism is a big part of our community. When people come, not necessarily wanting to drive a car they want to participate in public transit. And we want to make that as easy as possible. And that digital app is going to be the way that they can get around easily, find their way to and from whatever destination they need, pay for their ride, make sure that their bus or whatever microtransit they're using, I think is phenomenal. And this is just something that we need to really focus on going forward. I think it's really going to make a world of difference, not only for our citizens, but the ones that are visiting from out of the community as well. And I just hope that this is, as we pointed out, really focused on changing that hardware on the buses, making sure that the app and the flexibility with the cloudware works. So many transportation companies are now popping up that are digitally based, that we can test and check the status of our buses, check where different things are. And so with that technology changing and our ability to do that, this is just going to improve our ability to better serve the community and do it in a more efficient manner that's more cost effective. So really great work. I'm very impressed with the plan. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. We're on our way. And just to the public commenters' comments earlier, obviously that universal app would be ADA supported.
Absolutely.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on to item. Oh, we have to take action. May I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I would make a move to approve the plan as presented.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously. All right, at this time, we're moving on to item 6.1, the public hearing on the TOPS plan. And we do have some public comment on this item. We're going to go Donna Klontz and then Matt Grassi.
Good morning, Commission. Again, I'm Donna Klontz. I live in Reno, and I'm speaking on behalf of the senior community, partly with Age Friendly, and I'm also a member of the Washoe County Senior Advisory Board as an advisor these days. And one of the things that our group we've been talking about transportation there as well. We had a presentation a couple of months ago on a little brochure that Susie Trinidad has been working on that would be specifically aimed at seniors. And I think it's still in draft. This would be one of those ways to market the changes for our RTC. And we'd love to see this thing completed and out again. I haven't seen it yet appear at any of the senior centers. So this was great work. We thank the RTC staff again for producing this thing. On to the proposed changes that are listed. I saw that there were about 5 routes that were recommended to start September 10th, plus several routes that were going to be discontinued as of that date. And I'm not sure, I didn't see Route 6 listed as one of the discontinued to start on that date. And I think Jim mentioned in his comments that there is a lot of concern about that route because that's the one it's kind of around the lakeside community, and there are so many apartments and senior places, Moana area, all of that area. We want to make sure that route doesn't go away until something replaces it, and there are some suggestions for that in the list of some 20 or more recommendations for change. So I was very concerned about that, and so in terms of the things that would start on the 10th of September. We as the senior community are very interested in the flex ride ideas, those new places that are recommended here to become new flex ride areas are terrific. Those are needed. And I would like to see at least one of them implemented in that September 10th time frame, if it's possible. Since you're eliminating some routes, that seems to me that there should be equipment and drivers available. And I know there's 2 different contracts for the 2 different systems, but Route 51 and Route 52, mainly down south, are the 2 areas on the main lines that we would like to see implemented with the various changes that are going on in September, and also at least one of those flex rides. Either the Western Reno one, which would pick up that area around Route 6, or the South Valleys one, flex rides. I know that it's hard to start a new system like that, but those are the areas that are very much underserved, that have so many seniors living in them, and also the workers. So we'd love to see you take a look at what's going to be implemented in September and help make a change there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and hopefully your questions will get answered when we get to the presentation. Mac Rossi?
Easy on that button, huh, girls? Again, Mac Rossi, resident of Reno. Just one more project that has been working for some time. This has been in the works for almost 8 years now, and we're talking about North McCarran, where Keystone and Leadership come in. This is really quite near Rancho San Rafael. And about 8 years ago, a developer came in and he proposed to put in a couple hundred apartments, and we were very much concerned from the area that the only way you could get out of that development was making a right-hand turn to get on McCarran, which is a speed limit of 50 miles an hour. There seems to be a lack of communication between RTC, the City of Reno, and NDOT. Last I talked to NDOT, they only knew about a proposal for 200 apartments that were coming down to McCarran. As of the end of this year, there'll be 800 apartments coming off of that development where the water tower is. The only way to get onto that area is make a right-hand turn on McCarran. If you want to go in the opposite direction, you have to merge into the traffic at 50 miles an hour, get into a left-hand turn lane, and make a U-turn. You have two options on that. We've been asking for this for quite a while. We need help. We need help. This has been dragging on way too long, and a lack of communications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go into the presentation.
There's one more.
Okay, we got one more. We'll hold on just a second.
Goodness. Good morning again. I'm Dora Martinez with the Disability Peer Action Coalition Group. I did see some of the route that's going to be affected with flex, and what concerns me is the Route 15, because that goes to Winco, and a lot of people, such as myself, who don't have a car, and seniors and people with disability use that to go shopping. So when it turns to flex, I'm just kind of curious, how is that going to look like when people have a lot of groceries? Person like myself, I have my husband and my dog. The car is going to be very crowded, and I don't know if I'm going to wait for a longer time. So, and this is going to go for our MTM and access. I was wondering, because several years ago, they did have a shopper's route. And I was hoping and wishing, and please hear us, because I feel like nobody's listening every time I come, to put back the shopper's route. I would really appreciate that. That way, we can save our money to buy our ticket instead of taking the flex, because it's going to be crowded with our, because we put our stuff in the luggage, and so we log them in. The shopper's route will be available for seniors and people who are certified to use the paratransit. We ask that you please include shopper's route for us, so we could be able to go shopping and not use the tiny vehicles that the flex use. I think that's it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning again. For the record, Jim Gee, Manager of Service Plan Innovation, RTC. and here to discuss the recommended changes for the September 10th labor assignment. Just as introductory remarks, these changes are based upon recommendations in TOPS. These are the first round of TOPS changes, and those TOPS changes will stretch perhaps over the next several years, or at least a few years. Those changes are based upon driver staffing levels, finances, vehicle availability, and so on. But these are the changes that we're bringing forward today that we believe we will successfully be able to implement for September. In terms of outreach, these changes were combined with TOPS, and we received almost 700 responses to a survey related to these specific route changes. I would note that all of the TOPS changes, including the ones presented here today, had very strong public support, with an average disapproval rating of 13.5%. In the public transit world, that's amazing because, some of these changes involve discontinuing routes or converting to flex services. And for an average disapproval rating of only 13%, that's very, very unusual in public transit. What we are proposing today is modification of 4 routes, discontinuing of 3 routes, all of which have not run since January of this year, and then changes and enhancements to our access service, seniors taxi bucks program, and flex ride adjustments. So first, the first pair of changes are changes to Route 5 and Route 15, and essentially we are switching the alignments of the route as they exit Reno. Route 5 will directly connect Hug High School, the new Hug High School, with the Sun Valley area. And that way, folks who live in Sun Valley can use the transit service to get to school. Additionally, Route 5 will now connect Hug High School and Sun Valley with Winco so that Sun Valley residents can have access to Winco, which was a request that we heard that they wanted access to a full service or a larger grocery store. Route 15, which is the paired change with Route 5, that will now access TMCC from downtown Reno in a more direct fashion. So students who go to TMCC can take Route 15 and get to campus quicker. At the same time, we're also recommending changing our North Valley's Flex Ride to add TMCC to the Flex Ride service so that those who live in the North Valleys would not have to go to downtown Reno to go back out to TMCC. That change would begin on August 20th to coincide with the start of the fall semester for TMCC. Route 9, we propose to essentially straighten the route out and provide a faster direct connection between Centennial Plaza and Meadowood Mall. Additionally, we will connect Centennial Plaza with the Walmart on 2nd Street. That was a request that we heard from our passengers in Sparks who wanted to essentially get to either work or shopping at Walmart. And then additionally, we will also connect it to the Fire Creek Shopping Center on the south end of Kitski. That is a slight change from the TOPS recommendation, but as we continued our public feedback, we heard from folks who work at Fire Creek and wanted that connection to the mall to make it easier for them to get to work. And additionally, it eliminates a little bit of close redundant service because the original proposal was Smith Ridge, which is close to service that we already have on Neal. Next proposal is Route 13, and that is to extend the route to the Social Security Administration building. This is a temporary change that we actually put in at the end of April to coincide with the demand from the public to serve Social Security as they were reopening from COVID. Additionally, with Route 13, we will be adding service in the middle of the day on Sundays to close a gap that we have. Next, we propose to eliminate or discontinue Route 2S, which is a small little sub-route that coincides with Route 2. It does reduce frequency, but this route has not run since January and was discontinued due to low staffing in January, and so we wish to make this official. Route 3CC is also proposed for discontinuation. This is a loop route that had limited service It also has not run since January, and it is also offset by the Route 3CL, which is the clockwise version of that loop. If the discontinuation is approved, we would rename the route 3 as opposed to 3CC, 3CL, which would make it easier for our customers to understand the routing. And then finally, we propose eliminating Route 19, which again has not run since January. The major destinations on that route were the Social Security Administration, which is now covered by Route 13, and the airport, which is also covered by Route 12. And Route 12 was the preferred method of accessing the airport by our passengers according to our counts. Finally, we have a number of recommendations not related to the fixed route side. First, we want to expand the Taxi Bucks program. Right now, the way Taxi Bucks works is if a passenger contributes $15, they get $60 in cab fare that they can use for services, pharmacy, grocery, whatever. We propose expanding that to make it $75. So the passenger would only put in $15, and they would in return get $75 back in cab fare that they can use for their needs. That service is open to everyone over 60 and also to the disabled and veterans. We propose changing our access reservation hours to a consistent 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week. That is partially based on call volume, but also based on staffing levels. And by consolidating our resources in that window, we'll be able to have quicker response time to telephone calls. And then finally, on an ongoing basis, we will continue to expand our flex ride zones. I mentioned TMCC earlier in the presentation. Most recently, we've added Winco and Sparks Spanish Springs as a new destination, including the retail at La Posada on Pyramid. And as demand comes in and driver staffing is available, we will continue to inch those flex rides out into Spanish Springs and North Valleys and so on. And then the final change for September will be looking at our individual times and changing them based on the data that we receive daily throughout our workday. The data points that we use are ridership, of course, but also we look at dwell time at bus stops, on-time performance, running times between points on a route, and we use that to basically redesign our schedules routinely to make sure that we have better on-time performance. And I'm pleased to say it's a long process, but it does work. This past month, we exceeded 90% on-time performance for the first time since 2020, and so that provides more reliable and consistent service for our customers. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Turn it over to board members if they have any questions or comments. I think you addressed some of the public comments. I'm not sure if directly Donna Clance's question about Route 6, I think that got answered.
Yeah, so Route 6 is not proposed for any change at this time.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. I don't see any other questions or comments. All right. Fantastic. Good job.
Thank you.
May I get a motion from the board? Oh, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, was public notice given and any correspondence received?
Public notice was given, and we do not have any further comment.
Thank you very much. Okay. We already went through the public comment on that. May I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the transit optimization plan strategies service changes.
Fantastic. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, at this time, we're moving into item 7, our reports. Item 7.1. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay. Director Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. First thing I'd like to do this morning is acknowledge some new employees. We, like all organizations, have had changes and turnover, which is a natural thing in any organization of our size. We've got some great new people that I want to introduce to you. Well, first, Chris Benham, who did our Pledge of Allegiance, probably wasn't expecting that, is our new Procurement and Contracts Analyst. in RTC's finance department, and Chris started in June of this year. So, Chris, if you wouldn't mind standing, well, know who you are, the Pledge of Allegiance leader. Yeah. Secondly, and we're really excited about this, Sheila Fouts is our new customer service associate. Sheila, if you wouldn't mind standing. Sheila is one of the 3 people, we're very efficient in this area, that helps the people in our public transportation system, particularly our fixed route system. And she'll be working in either Centennial Plaza or 4th Street Station to help to have you, Sheila. And then lastly, and I don't know if I repeated this, Michelle, did I introduce you last meeting? I did, okay. Well, I didn't want to miss you, so yeah, you get 2 welcomes. Moving on, the RTC is seeking community input on our proposed Mill Street widening project. We're proposing improvements on Mill Street between Kitsky Lane and Terminal Way. To learn more about these improvements and to watch a brief video presentation, please visit millstreetwidening.com. The RTC is accepting comments through August 11th. The RTC is encouraging the community to provide input on the City of Reno's The Future of Virginia Street survey, which is now live. The survey is collecting data about the community's current Virginia Street experience. The data will be used to develop a draft vision and to set a set of goals as part of the Virginia Street placemaking study. To learn more and to take the survey, please visit reno.gov/engage. If you're heading to our region's special events this summer, we encourage you to take transit. In particular, in partnership with Hot August Nights, the RTC will provide free transportation on the Rapid Virginia Line, Rapid Lincoln Line, Route 1, and Route 11 transit services beginning Tuesday, August 2nd through Sunday, August 7th, all day, each day. Plan your trip at rtcwashoe.com. And then the last comment I have, or update, is that the RTC received an updated TSA score for baseline assessment and security assessment review in June. And we're very pleased that RTC received an overall score of 96% on the base review, up from our 2018 score of 92%. The base evaluation evaluates 17 categories of security and emergency preparedness action items identified as fundamentals for a sound transit security program. The TSA recognized RTC for its commitment and hard work in achieving approved base review results. So very proud of our PTO team, our providers, MTM and Keolis, and also for Rob Reeder and his efforts assuring security. So this makes me feel good as your director, but also should be a good thing for our passengers to understand that we take security seriously, and we've been recognized by TSA for doing that. So that concludes my comments today.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll move into item 7.2, the federal report.
The only thing that I would share with you is that to update you, is that the earmark process or congressionally designated projects are moving forward. We did have our delegation put in a couple of our projects, both our Lemon Drive and our new bus facility on Sutro. So those are not completed. That process is not done, but I just want to advise the board that those, again, very happy with the assistance from our delegation. Those are moving forward, and they've submitted those, and hopefully I'll be able to report back soon that those have been funded.
Fingers crossed. Okay, at this time, we're going to move into item 7.3, the NDOT report. Director Swallow.
Good morning. I am going to start, as I typically do, with safety as the slides get loaded. And so statewide through June 30th, there have been 187 traffic deaths in Nevada. That's up 2% from the same time last year. And if we all remember, last year was not a year that we want to benchmark off of. It was the worst in more than a decade. Unfortunately, we continue to see impairment and speeding as top factors, and I'm going to jump into the Washoe County fatality trends on the next slide, but then I'm going to spend a minute talking about what we're doing on this on speeding and how we're working to try to address that in the slides after this one. So as of June 30th, 24 lives have been lost in Washoe County crashes. That's up 9% from last year, or 2 more people have died on the roads in Washoe County compared to June 30th of last year. We know that summer brings many of us out onto our roadways as bicyclists, pedestrians, motorcyclists. My husband was actually up here last weekend on his motorcycle, and I will focus on that as well on a future slide. Thank you, Commissioner Jardin, for asking about that. So I also have a slide on that. Compared to last year, pedestrian fatalities year to date in Washoe County are actually down 25%. There's been 3 deaths this year compared to 4 last year. And at this time, we had 1 bicyclist fatality last year, and as of this year, there have been none. They're good news, but the fact still remains that 3 pedestrians have died in Washoe County this year, and we've tragically seen 7 motorcyclist deaths this year. And now I'm going to jump into that speed management, and then we'll go a little bit more on the motorcyclist deaths so far this year. So as you noticed on both of those slides, speed and impairment are the top causes of crashes and fatalities that we've seen on the network. So NDOT has, starting last year, started working on a speed management action plan. In researching the data, we know that there are many strategies that we can do to address speeding on the roadways. And we want to make sure that we're doing it in a targeted way that focuses the resources on the roads where we have the most opportunity for change. You can see that over 51% of the speeding related crashes are actually on those higher speed limited access roads, 60 mile an hour or over. But less than 1/3 of the fatal and serious injury crashes are on the high speed roads. And in fact, it's almost the opposite. So while only 32% of the crashes, the speeding related crashes are on roads of 30 to 49 miles per hour, the arterials, they're almost 50% of the fatals. So we know that we need to be working on trying to figure out how to make safety a priority on those basically arterial roads. How do we improve the safety on those corridors while we also continue to focus on improving safety on the limited access corridors? We also know that the impact of speeding is not, and generally traffic death is not equitably shared across demographics. On the top bar graph, you can see that's fatalities overall per 100,000 population. And from 2015 to 2019, this is Nevada data, Hispanic or Latino and American Indian, Alaska Native race and ethnicities have experienced a slightly higher fatality rate on our roads than the total population. When you dive into and look at speeding related fatalities, you can see even more dramatic impact. And Hispanic or Latino and Black or African American have speeding related fatalities much higher than the average. And so this is early data, it's limited data. Only recently in the 2021 session has there been a requirement to actually start collecting this data. So we're going to get more data on this moving forward, and we're going to be really looking at this and the causes of this and what we can do to really start improving the safety for everybody on our roads. I've talked about speeding in general, like the super high speeding. This slide is focused on over 100 miles per hour speeding and how the citations on that have dramatically increased since 2019. I should note that that's the citation, so it's only the people that have been caught. I would venture to guess there's been more out there than what we're seeing because our NSP and our other law enforcement are constrained, resource constrained, just like many of our agencies, so they're not able to catch everyone. But there has been a dramatic increase in excessive speed. It's hard to, we're talking about over 100 miles an hour and everybody's like, well, that's crazy, right? But if you're going 50 miles an hour and a 25, that's also excessive, right? So this, however, is focused on over 100 miles per hour. And it kind of correlates to the pandemic. And we've just seen, as we're coming out of this pandemic, a lot of just really bad behaviors on our roads. This is one of them. You'll note that Washoe County is actually lower than I think what you would anticipate based representatively. So I don't know if that's just basically they haven't been able to focus on that, or if there's something different about the network here than perhaps in the rest of the state. I was thinking about that as we were going through the meeting today, and I can think of some differences that may attribute, but it could also be just not as much of a focus or ability to cite up here. All right, so what are we doing with this? So we are on our speed management action plan. It's wrapping up, it's almost complete. And so since last spring, we've been working with our local stakeholders because as you saw, there's the limited access roads and then there's the arterial roads. So fixing speeding on our network isn't going to be just an NDOT effort. It is going to be something we want to work with our local partners on and implementation. It will include implementation actions, some schedules, updates, and we will continue to really seek stakeholder input as well as start rolling out these strategies on our projects and our projects with our partners. After every project, we will be doing evaluations. Unfortunately, you can't roll out the project and then 3 months later say, yes, that was effective. It does take time to see the data and see whether or not it was effective. So we'll be monitoring for ongoing learning and evolution of the process. I will note that this is ongoing, and yes, we're going to start, but we've already been doing some of this. I think we've been having some conversations, I know, regarding the requests for speed studies. When we get a request for a speed study, historically, we'd go out there, we'd be like, it's posted at 45, everybody's going 60, we should change the speed limit. And I've challenged our team to not have that as the default answer. If the road is posted at 45, we posted it at 45 for a reason. So let's look at the context of the road. Why was it posted at 45? Does that context still make sense? Is that context still there? Is that speed limit still the right speed limit for the context of the road? If it is, then what do we need to do to get speed compliance? If the context of the road has changed, or if that was posted, or if it was really posted lower than it should have been, then we can have the conversation about raising it. But the default answer shouldn't be everybody's going faster than what we posted it, so let's change it. We really should be thoughtful about it, and if there are things we need to do to get driver compliance with the posted speed limit, then let's work on figuring out what those solutions are. So just an update, speed management action plan, it's going to be rolling out here in the next several months and is going to be incorporated in our projects, and we're hoping that we'll be able to work with our local partners in having it and elements of it incorporated in your projects. All right, motorcycle safety. So,
the only picture you could come up with?
Hey, you know what?
A shadow?
Sorry. We had a good conversation about motorcycles before this meeting started. Commissioner Jardin, thank you for asking about this. We, as we've seen for many months, speed and impairment, just like I said, are top causes of traffic fatalities. And you had asked if those same behaviors were being seen in the motorcycle fatalities. So we reached out to our partners at DPS for the official crash numbers thus far this year. There have been 8 motorcycle crashes in Washoe County so far this year. Speed was reported 8 motorcycle crashes that resulted in fatalities. I'm sure there have been more crashes than that, but 8 that resulted in fatalities. Speed was reported as a factor in 2 of those. Rider impairment is suspected in 1, and the rest were reported as an unknown. 4 of the crashes involved only the motorcyclist, and in all 4 of those, the motorcyclist ran off the roadway. So I don't know that there's statistical data yet to say whether or not that was a higher incidence than in drivers of cars. But that is the data that we have so far, and I think we all need to remember, whether you're driving on 2 or on 4, not to drive impaired and not to speed, because both of those can have dire consequences for both the driver, the rider, and people outside the vehicle as well. You also asked about ignition interlock use. We are going to focus next month on impairment, and so I'll have some data on that at that point. All right. So advisory working group, our last meeting was June 14th. I think I told you about it. It was a virtual meeting. It was 2 hours. All members of the advisory group were given 2 minutes to kind of give us their thoughts on the high-level draft recommendations. The consulting team is continuing to work on those, and our next meeting will be in September. I believe it will be an all in-person meeting, all-day meeting. In the meantime, we're giving some updates to the Interim Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, and we'll continue to keep you updated as to what's coming up. All right, project updates. I've got two of them, SBX and Pyramid. So SBX, crews are renovating the middle lanes of I-580. They continue to do that from the Spaghetti Bowl to Mill Street. That will include new ITS elements and sign foundations. Earlier this month, the crews paved a section of Vassar Street underneath the project area. And last month, we discussed the landscaping and aesthetic features coming to life along Southbound I-80 near the Reno Sparks Indian Colony. The 2nd Street on-ramp will be closed 24/7 for approximately 2 weeks later this summer, likely between hot August nights and street vibrations, so we don't interfere with any of the traffic from those events. We are working on installing some additional landscaping and some foundations, and we'll keep stakeholders updated in advance of those construction closures. Also, in the coming weeks, crews will open the new southbound I-580 on-ramp from 2nd Street. This will be a milestone for the project. You guys, if you've been driving it, you've seen the bridge. You've seen the bridge. So that will be opening here in a few weeks. The new braided ramp will carry 2nd Street traffic entering southbound 580 over the Mill Street off-ramp, and help with that. Right now, the interim condition, you have to look and see, and so it'll make that much smoother and safer. I'm looking forward to having, hopefully, many of you join us during our walk and talk next week on Monday to get an inside look at the construction progress. That bridge will be one of the stops that we'll take a look at, as well as a second location. And then one last Spaghetti Bowl note, Commissioner Dare last month asked about the westbound I-80 to southbound 580 Spaghetti Bowl merge at the meeting. As part of recent traffic switches, we've actually opened a dedicated merge lane from the westbound I-80 to southbound 580 ramp. So that gives drivers a dedicated travel lane traveling southbound on 80 and should smooth that merge out. It was happening already. The timing of his question was actually just a good timing. And so while there is now a new dedicated lane for that particular ramp, it's always a good reminder for drivers that the traffic configurations during construction of this project are going to continue to change. So make sure that you stay alert and pay attention to what's going on as they change throughout. Project is on schedule to wrap up by the end of the year. So we're getting closer and closer, and we're going to start seeing the benefits from it even more. And then my last update is on Pyramid Highway. Commissioner Hartung last month asked about some potential speed limit change or a speed limit change on Pyramid Highway. As part of the installation of the traffic signal at Pyramid and Egyptian, we have temporarily reduced the speed approaching that intersection to 45 miles an hour. It is a temporary work zone speed reduction to help keep everyone safe in the work zone. We don't have any plans currently to permanently change speed limits on Pyramid Highway, but a reminder to everybody is traffic safety and mobility are our top priorities, and we routinely evaluate speeds through engineering speed studies. We just talked about those, and so if we need to, we will make speed limit updates when and as needed, as we have in the past on Pyramid. But that one that he asked about is just a temporary for the construction of the signal. And that concludes my report.
Fantastic. Any members have any questions for Director Swallow?
Just a comment.
Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Swallow, first of all, I want to thank you for the response from your staff in regards to the Highway 28. Yeah, it's Highway 28, correct? Around the lake? Yes, thank you. Highway 28 issues in Crystal Bay. I know that construction is ongoing, and it's been, the response from your staff has been wonderful. Really appreciate that. A lot of response from Commissioner Hill's district, and the businesses around there have reached out, and so thank you for that very timely response to those changes for that project. I know Commissioner Hartung is not here today due to medical issues that he's dealing with at home, but we did have a public meeting on Tuesday, and there were some developments going on just north of Calle de la Plata and just outside of Calle de la Plata, north towards the road is where Ingenuity, where the business park and Horizon View come together. It's just, I believe, just within the too close of a distance by standards to signalize that intersection at Horizon View. And the problem is that there has been a development approved for the Donovan Pit behind the development out there, where 144 homes are slated to go in to the east of Pyramid Highway. And then Hawco Development is developing Harris Ranch, which is just north of that. And so quite a bit of homes are going to be coming online. And right now, they utilize a haul road off of just north of Horizon View to get haul trucks in and out of the Donovan Pit. And it causes quite a bit of problems, but that is going to be converted into housing in the near future. But one of the challenges that we are facing with all of the homes that are going in on that northern side is that intersection of Ingenuity and Horizon View and Pyramid Highway. And the problem is that we have the business park on the west side of Pyramid that brings truck traffic onto Pyramid Highway there. And then now we're going to have a significant addition of residential that'll be added to that area as well. So a signalized intersection was what had been requested by about, I would say, 40 to 50 public commenters during the presentation. And the number one concern was not about development, which was very, very rare for us, about not in my backyard, but more of we would like to see better safety on Pyramid Highway, especially at that intersection of Ingenuity and Horizon View, just north of Calle de la Plata. In the way of an intersection, in the way of signalization of that intersection. So if I'd be remiss, and Hartung would be yelling at me if I didn't bring it up. But if that's something that your staff could take a look at and bring back a report for Commissioner Hartung on that, that would be fantastic. I won't leave it with any diatribes or stories about living out there for 30 years or anything like that. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Lucy. Any other members have any questions or comments?
I'll send you a picture of a Harley.
I'll take one of the one in my garage.
Oh, no, I do, Madam Chair, I do have one more. 431, do we have an update on when staff will bring back the discussion on the Mount Rose corridor safety plan?
Yeah. So we are actually working on with the report. So we have the corridor analysis completed.
Right.
So now that we have that, we're working on developing those recommendations into projects.
Okay.
And we're hoping to start incorporating those via our One Nevada prioritization process here this year. That doesn't mean that we'll have projects in for next year because we have to work through the prioritization. We have our plan, but we are working on bringing those projects online. I should have a better update on the timeline of when those projects should start appearing here later this year.
That's great, and as long as we can continue to participate in those discussions, if the capital needs are there, that we could possibly work together because those same issues are going to start arising now with the more development that's going on, the potential of Sierra Reflections, the potential of the Asante project moving forward. Those Fawn Lanes and Callahan Road are going to be impacted, plus we've seen growth at the school area, and so with the removal of those advanced warning signals, I'd like to see if we can control speeds up and down through there, especially whether those are roundabouts or not at those intersections.
We definitely look forward to partnering in there, and there have been conversations about partnering during this whole process. So we'll let you know what those projects are going to look like, and then when they look like they can be delivered on our fiscally restraint program, and how that might change if the RTC is able to help partner.
Yeah, because we had a major accident just yesterday at God, I can't even think of the road off of Butch Cassidy right there as it come past Thomas Craig coming down, egress into. And it was T-boned. So it was, luckily, I don't think anybody was hurt. REMSA was on site in TM, and so was NHP, but both cars had, it was a delivery truck and a passenger car. A passenger car Luckily, I don't think was there any damages, but all the airbags were deployed, and so those are those issues on that highway specifically because of that geographics and those grades. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for that report, appreciate it. We are moving on to item 8, Commissioner announcements and updates. Do any members have any announcements or updates? Okay, seeing none.
I do, Madam Chair.
Commissioner
I'm sorry.
Lucy. No
Thank
worries.
you. I almost missed that. One request that did come from the commission, specifically Commissioner Jung and myself. One of the challenges that we've seen this summer and throughout the spring is the increase in fuel prices. And the fuel tax did go into the indexing did go into effect on July 1. And it is impacting, when we're seeing $5 to $6 a gallon of gas for individuals. One of the suggestions that Commissioner Jung brought forward is, Director Thomas, if we can look at potentially what it would take to do maybe free bus rides throughout the summer on some of our priority routes through the event season, and to help maybe potentially using as a program to push more people towards utilizing our public transit this summer to help ease the costs of the increased fuel taxes for those that might be able to utilize the bus or some type of other transit during these months instead of taking the car, lessening potential traffic on our roads and pushing more people to our public transit by offering maybe free bus rides or discounted bus rides to help with that. So if that's a program that we can look at with Mr. Maloney and Mr. Gee about potentially doing that for a period of time and augmenting that in our budget, if we have those capabilities, that would be something that I would like to look at as a commissioner and bring that back in front of the board for a discussion if possible.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great suggestion, and I know that a recent thing, we got the grant for the university students and offering the free bus passes for the university students, and we are seeing an increase in the ridership, so there is some history and success there. So, any other members have any questions or comments? Director Thomas, if we could just get an update. Mac Rossi, who was here, he brought up my least favorite subject of North McCarran and leadership. And what we talked about, some interim improvements while the NDOT study is still being considered. And I think there was some discussion of some things that might be able to be done. If we could just get an update on that, that'd be great. All right, anybody have anything else? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment. We do have a couple of closing public comments. We're going to start with Donna Klontz, followed by Lori Rodriguez.
Morning, Commissioners. One more time, Donna Klontz. I live in Reno and have a lot of connection with our senior communities. A few things. On the changes from the TOPS program that you approved today, that list, I would ask that there be a scheduled, agendized timeframe for an update on when the next round might be available. I don't know if it'd be every agenda or quarterly or something. That way we could help follow it and continue to encourage the seniors to get involved in those new routes. Second, Commissioner Lucy talked about RSCVA and tourism here, which is a big deal. I'm in and out of the airport all the time, and I've never seen any information about how to catch the bus from the airport. A lot of travelers these days look for public transit when they get to a new city. If we could just get a sign in baggage claim at the Reno airport that tells people where they could walk to get to the bus stop that's nearby, that would be, I think, a terrific way to connect our visitors to our RTC systems. So, don't know what that would cost, but I would love to see it happen. I do that every time I travel. I use public transit when I go to a new city. And last of all, marketing, and especially marketing to seniors. Some ideas that I'd like to propose. Most seniors that I talk to don't know about the Flex Ride system. If they happen to live in the Sparks, North Valleys, or West Reno, Somerset, they don't know that the Flex Ride exists or how to use it. I would suggest, and I could find some volunteers even to help the staff, because I know Susie and company, they're pretty stretched already teaching folks about how the systems work, especially for seniors. To have a regular presentation at, say, use Northwest Reno as an example, the Somerset clubhouses, and maybe the Walmart at the other end, on a regular basis to teach people how to use that system. Do the same thing in Sparks and in North Valleys as well, so that people know that they exist at the supermarket or at whatever some of the major places are that the seniors always go, so that they know that Flex Ride exists, so that they can, access what they need to do. You talked about the free system that exists right now for UNR and TMCC students, the faculty and staff ride free, and I've seen it on the RTC website. I think that a free opportunity for seniors during this marketing would be wonderful. I love the suggestion that Commissioner Lucy pointed out today about some of those. Because gas is so expensive today, that the bus could be free for a certain period of time. So I would suggest trying a free, maybe Flex Ride in some of the, pick one and try it and see what happens. And then work on marketing so folks know that it's there and teach folks how to use it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Lori Rodriguez.
Good morning, Lori Rodriguez for the record. You were talking about all the free rides to the events, and I would like to ask if you would include the North Valleys again. I am probably the only person in this room that remembers there used to be free rides. We would meet at O'Brien Middle School, and the buses were full, and you would have to wait for the next bus. There were such long lines. Well, we have thousands more homes up there now, and I think a lot of people would appreciate being able to meet someplace. O'Brien's closed, so I'm not sure where we would go now, possibly North Valleys High School. And we would take the bus to the special events. I know my husband and I don't go to a lot of the special events because we don't want to deal with the traffic or the parking. We actually have traffic delays coming into town and out of town to the special events because there are so many people coming from the North Valleys. So if you would consider adding the North Valleys again, that's, Lemon Valley, Golden Valley, Stead, Cold Springs, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any further public comment?
We do not.
Dora.
Oh, we do?
Oh,
Come on down.
Come on down, Dora.
No worries, no need to apologize.
Denise said I could.
You bet.
Just kidding, Denise. You're the best. Okay. All right. So good morning again, Dora Martinez. First of all, I want to thank all of you for letting us speak, even though I don't go through regular channels. I apologize. To the director and Dot, thank you for all of your hard work and your staff. I called 2 months ago regarding one of the audible pedestrian lights, and it was at 3 p.m. on a Friday, and they fixed it at 3:30. So thank you, and I don't know if Peter is still your ADA guy, but please, if he is, give him our thanks. He's always been responsive to our concerns, and he helped us with the Prater and McCarran audible pedestrian traffic lights and the Sparks Lincoln Boulevard traffic lights. And also to Mr. Ed Lawson, I don't know if John Erickson is still in your public works. He's the best dude ever. He always comes out and helps, and he was pointing, and I'm like, sir, I can't see. Oh, I'm so sorry. So he was very adaptive and very accommodating. And I know Alan Tran is not here, and he's retired, but he helped us with the senior 9th and Sutro. We blindfolded him, and he crossed the street with me and my cane, and he's like, okay, we need to put pedestrian lights on here, pedestrian. So, that kind of gave him a scare. But I just want to thank you all, and I hope that when you guys start talking about maybe free rides, that you will also include the access bus, maybe not free, but maybe 50% off, because as you know, a lot of people are on Social Security income and a lot of house rent went up. So they're kind of struggling. They got to choose between grocery shopping and dialysis and getting their kids to their school events. And not all of us are able to use the sidewalk because they're on wheelchairs and scooters. So please keep us in mind when you guys are doing this thoughtful and great things. And thank you so much and have a great weekend. Happy July.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all of that. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any further public comment?
I don't
Madam
see any.
Chair, just really quickly.
Yes, Mayor Sheevy.
Can you hear? Yeah. I just want to say I am so impressed by the public comment. It is really tremendous. It's very, very helpful. My last meeting, too, it was really good. I'm so delighted to see this kind of feedback helping us be better. And also, it really helps me kind of get wrapped around the issues and things that we're facing. And so, I would just encourage any of them to reach out, too, so that we can also, on the city side, make sure that we're doing everything we can to work together on some of these issues, because I think sometimes we get a little confused as to, whose responsibility that is. So I want to make sure that we're not dropping the ball on the city side as well. But I just want to say I really am. The public comment has been so thoughtful. It's really nice to see. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sheevy, and I completely agree. It's been, the feedback has been great and it's been heard. So I appreciate all of everybody taking their time to spend this Friday morning with us. All right. Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if you don't mind indulging me, kind of opening up member comments one more time, one thing that I would ask that Director Thomas might look at too, based upon the public comment this afternoon or this morning, maybe potential short commuter routes from some of our more outside. We do have commuter buses that go to and from Carson City and whatnot, but maybe potentially looking at them for a North Valleys, a direct commuter from North Valleys to our downtown stations, Spanish Springs to Centennial Plaza, Mount Rose and Damani Ranch to either downtown or to Meadowood Mall to get into our bus system quickly as a commuter route. And then one of the other things that I did want to bring back up that I just thought about was the on and off ramps at Patriot, South Meadows and Damani Ranch, pertaining to traffic that is starting to build up on those on and off ramps. I know we do have the South Valley study that we completed and where that is going for those improvements on those roads, but that would be in conjunction with NDOT specifically for the Patriot off-ramp, because that is one of the few off-ramps that we have that goes to, instead of a breeze-through egress or a signalized egress, it goes to a stop sign that merges onto South Virginia right there at the In-N-Out, which does cause significant challenges on northbound I-580 for both the South Meadows on-ramp and then the Damani Ranch on-ramp for South Meadows not South Meadows, but Steamboat and Damani Ranch. Those intersections are now being challenged with the addition of, especially with the breaking ground of the new building center for the De Loretto's and the Duffield for Victory Dogs, and those quite a few of new apartment complexes out there. We are seeing increased traffic, and so when those become full, those are going to be very challenged roads and intersections. So those three, as it pertains to I-580 and our arterials, I'd like staff to take a look at those and see what we can do to increase those safeties on those intersections as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, just confirming, we are completed with all public comment and all agenda items?
I have no further public comment, and we've completed the agenda.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.